All right, we are back with another reaction. This time I'm going to talk about the narrative that's going all over news right now, the LA fires. It's not surprising that there's a lot of finger pointing, there's a lot of blame. There are issues where states cut the budget. Perhaps we're told one thing, we don't know why they cut the budget, but I will say that despite states cutting the budget, no one points out that the main federal government, the one where the president resides, they're not providing the money that every state needs. They have been sending millions and billion-dollar aid packages to three countries: Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. So honestly, why are we still blaming all the governors, whether they're Republican or Democrat, when we're still sending aid packages to foreign countries that are having little bitty wars that makes no sense, that we shouldn't even be involved in? So right now we have another war going on. The citizens of LA, they're out there getting burned out of their communities, fighting verbally with each other, pointing fingers instead of coming together, finding ways to help those who are homeless now, those who are looking for shelters. They're over here pointing fingers. And it's also funny, we have the majority of the rich people who are actually seems to be the target. They're not pulling out their reserves and resources and say, hey, if the fire department is running out of water or money, or what, let's donate to the fire department from our resources of saved profits or whatever, and help them get in more help from other states. Or let's find a way to get people who want to join the fire department and get them paid to help fight these fires. Honestly, they got all that ocean water. They can pull all that ocean water and put the fires out. I don't care what salt water does to the houses and communities. Salt water doesn't damage the environment. It may rust housing communities, but at least you can put the fires out. But all I see every time I look at the news is mostly upper class people complaining and pointing fingers and arguing and fighting. It's not getting anything solved. And I understand the frustration, and you want to say the politicians make bad decisions, but still, it's not getting anything solved. And I decided to look outside the country for world news on what's going on. And it's funny that the BBC and the Indian news are reporting in a whole more civilized manner. They're not reporting entire negative people bitching and complaining about materialism. They're reporting actual news. They're actually going to people who are actually dealing with this in a most humble way, knowing that they live in a state where there's fires every year, there's earthquakes every year, there's floods every year if a storm comes off the Atlantic. They're reporting news in a more respectful, humble, civilized manner, while all the news stations here in America are trying to pull negative, random narratives that's not solving any problems. Like, oh, did you know the fire hydrants had no water? Well, to be honest, fire hydrants usually have water, but once the water mains run out, regardless if you have stored water or not, you're going to run out of water anyway. And the amount of acres of land that you lost, you wouldn't have had enough water to put out the fires, because look back throughout your history, you still needed help with helicopter drops, airplane drops to put out these forest fires every year. So why all of a sudden it's a big issue, the water went out in the fire hydrants, when you know that that's a big problem every year? So it just so happened, out of all the actors I've seen, rich actors at that, Mel Gibson has an interview on Fox News. It's very interesting. And they tried to gaslight what he said. I've seen a clip of the interview, a very short clip, and they chopped up as much negative rhetoric they could get from him, but it wasn't enough. So here's a full interview on Fox News, and it's titled "Mel Gibson's Message to Newsom: Spend Less on Hair Gel." That's all they could get out of him, and let's see why. Let's see why. Because it's sad that instead of trying to pull people together, trying to rally everybody together to find ways to help those who are getting burnt out, find ways to maybe slow the fires down by maybe getting teams and volunteers to, you know, cut out the brush, chop down the brush, or, maybe get teams to pull water from the ocean to wet the ground. No, they want to point fingers. So let's see what Mel Gibson says.
Joining us now, actor and Academy Award-winning director Mel Gibson, an old friend, a Malibu resident who tragically just lost his home to the Palisades fire. Mel, I was thinking about you when I saw this fire break out. I think I talked to Raymond. I said, is Mel okay? Is his family okay? I instantly thought of you. He said he thought you were okay. And I'm glad you got out. I'm glad your family is safe. But tell us what it was like to be on Rogan's podcast when I guess you learned that your home had been lost.
Well, I didn't learn it was lost. I knew the neighborhood was on fire, then I was in the path. So I was a little tense while I talked to Joe, but he's a guy that can put you at your ease fairly well. So I was doing okay. And I knew that my family was safe and out of harm's way.
Were you able to get possessions that, of course, are really immaterial when you have your family, but I've been to your house. It was an incredible home, beautiful home. But were you able to get anything out of your house?
Not much. A few necessary things. You know, my son I said, just go and grab this and this and this. And he grabbed like 3 things and took off. And then, those are okay. Stuff like passports and a couple of papers and stuff like that. But by and large, everything was just, it looked, when I got there the other day, I went up there yesterday, it looked like Dresden, after Bomber Harris got through with it. Yeah.
Mel,
so nothing left.
For those of us watching.
You see how he actually answered that question with very solemn and humble, he had a very humble composure. And pay close attention to what he said when she asked him, did you ever get a chance to get anything and save anything? He made it clear to his sons, even to his wife, to get the most important things that we need. And he said, passports and important documents. They wasn't trying to save every little bitty thing. And he didn't even say like, oh my God, I lost this, this, and this, and now I'm upset. And this is their fault. They got the most important things for them to survive. That's what you do in any natural disaster. They tell you the same thing when you're on the airplane. When the airplane goes down, they tell you, do not grab your things. Save yourself. Your life is what's most important. And that's what Mel Gibson said. He is happy, even though he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, that his family was safe. That's all he cared about. He wasn't even worried that much about his home. That's why he said he was just tense, but he was just concerned about his family. His family told him they were good, and he carried on. And yet you see how she was kind of like hinting to him to say, yes, I lost my beautiful home. It was millions of dollars, and I wish it blah, 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 blah. No, you could tell, and even if you look at his demeanor, he looks very tense again in this interview, like he was prepped for certain questions to be answered, and he's not very comfortable answering them. And he's taking his time to answer them in a Christian-like manner. Let's carry on and see what else he said.
Watching this from afar, try to convey to us the feeling of seeing your home, your neighbors' homes.
See, she's gaslighting. She's trying to gaslight him. She's trying to pull and dig right here. This is what the news syndication's been doing And a lot of people fell victim to that trap. So that's why you see a lot of negativity. Of course, you're going to see devastation, people suffering, and all that. But like all other disasters, you see people trying to pull together. You don't see that right now. California had fires last year. They had fires the year before, and this is like this is like the first time all of a sudden. That's the way they're acting. This is the first time, and the government should have had preparations. But you can't prepare against nature. When nature takes its toll, you cannot stop nature. You cannot. We are supposed to take care of nature. If we took care of nature properly, that includes the way we build houses, we wouldn't have this problem. But we don't care about nature. That's why the earth is warming up. We don't care. We don't care about the animals. This is the problem we have. And then we still want government to fix everything when we ourselves could do the little things to keep our yards clean. If we got dry brush or whatever, you should trim that away if you know you're in an area that gets fires and electric storms that cause fires. But let's carry on. Let's see how he answers this question about his beautiful home and what it meant to him.
And the community there
Sure.
at such a loss.
I mean, it's
See that expression? He's trying to avoid a negative response. Like he's almost like, why are you still asking me this? And he's trying to be humble. Yes, it's devastating. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure he knows in his mind, and I'm also pretty sure he has savings stacked to where he can start all over. That's probably why he told his family to get the most important documents so they can start all over. That's why he's probably not going to complain. I guarantee he's not going to complain. That's bet.
It's tragic. It makes you really sad. I was actually, there are neighbors I have that I was actually looking at them. I felt worse for them than I did for myself.
There you go. How many people have actually said that right now? Literally, in that type of context. He cares more about the people around him than himself. That's a Christian heart for those who are Christians. That's a Christian heart.
I look at it as a strange mixture of sadness and almost kind of an elation in a sense that I count my blessings, no matter what. These are things. And
These are things. He's not materialistic, although we are materialistic as humans, but he's trying not to be materialistic. And I'll show you why he said that in a moment.
they may or may not be replaceable, but they're only things. And we're still here, and I just kind of look at it as almost in a weird kind of way a purification but of course it's very sad. And there were many things, gone in the blaze that, I've thought about since. I thought, oh, damn, that's too bad. But, works of art, photographs, rare books, old books, some as old as, 1600, it's like crazy.
Irreplaceable.
And irreplaceable stuff, yeah. So it is what it is, I guess. It was only a month ago that the flames threatened us 200 meters away on the other side. And of course the wind shifted and it came in and whipped and got us from the other direction. So it was an interesting...
You've heard, yeah.
See? He's trying to be honest, and you can tell he's stumbling over his words because he's uncomfortable with the type of questions he's being asked because he's trying to be honest. And at the same time, he's trying to mourn the loss of his home, I'm pretty sure, which he said it is devastating, but he also said it's kind of a sense of purification and elation. I mean, yeah, it sucks you lost all of what you lose. I've lost plenty. I've lost things in many natural disasters, but you know what I said to myself? I said, you know what? I can start all over. I can always start all over. So let's see why he said what he said. Let's check this out. All right, so in Matthew 6:19 through 24, this is what Mel Gibson is implying. And this scripture is about treasures in heaven. It says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal." And that's the problem that's going on right now in California, in other states too, other major cities. You have people running through a burnt homes or semi-burnt homes, stealing from the rich. Instead of risking their lives to help others, they're risking their lives to steal from the rich people. Because you know what they're going to do? They're going to sell it. This is all to go after the rich people. This is the very thing I said was going to happen. When there's so much economic inequality, the poor and the middle class are going to go after the rich. It's going to be a Robin Hood scenario, just like the Purge, the movie The Purge. It's going to get to that point when people are going to start killing each other for possessions to survive. Let's read some more. "But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." So, what he wants us to do, and if you don't really understand that verse, is he wants you to store your riches in being satisfied spiritually, thankful spiritually, and rely on what can be provided for you spiritually. Very simple. And to be honest, what most people say, they're thankful to be alive. And that's the greatest treasure, for one, to be alive, to have your family, your friends. Because being materialistic, you're going to lose that. Materials come and go. Because you actually make that from the ground into what we have today. And then when you die, you don't take that with you. And when nature comes through doing what it's doing, you're not going to have that stuff anymore. Nature is so powerful, it can destroy what you create. But you got to pay attention. Nature destroys itself and rebuilds itself, it regenerates itself. That's why, you have to understand whatever you lose, you can get again, or if anything, get better. So let's carry on with the interview.
You've heard
Go on.
you've heard a lot of people say a lot of things about these fires. Obviously, the winds were horrific, but they were predicted. I know you know that last weekend, like Friday,
sure.
Saturday, Sunday, they said this could be tragic with these winds if any fire starts.
Sure.
Do you believe in what you know so far?
See, again, he's very uncomfortable with these questions. It's like he doesn't want to be there, for one. You could tell they prepped him, and they probably already ran through the questions so he'll know how to answer them. He's already in a point where, he doesn't want to deal with the negativity because it's not going to solve the problem. Even if he answers the questions, it's not going to solve stopping these fires. So why be negative about it? Why not talk about how can we fix this, regardless of the mistakes the politicians made, as everybody's saying? Why not we talk about how to fix this? Why not we get together and find ways to raise money, get money in for those who are homeless now? Because that's what's going to be a big issue. Where are these people want to go? Where are they going to go? No one's talking about that. No one's talking about how they're going to survive. I bet they lost their jobs too through the fire. Can you imagine how many people lost their jobs that they work nearby? So you can imagine how many people don't have a job anymore. No one's talking about that. They're all talking about he said, she said, he was supposed to do this, she was supposed to do that. And in the midst of all that, the fires are still burning. How ironic.
The Santa Ana.
Anything could have happened like this?
Yeah, well, one always suspects that this might happen, but one thinks that the resources, and the capabilities of the men and women will be on standby, that they'll be able to cope with any situation that comes up. But apparently, some people were asleep on the job, mainly our leaders there. But you know, that's something they have to live with, and but that's something that community has to live with. And it's really sad. I mean, I have many friends that are, you know, looking for a place to put a roof over their heads, and kids, and you know, they're traumatized. So, someone should answer for it, but we'll see. I think we know who the culprits are. In fact, my son he's a member of the volunteer fire brigade. He sort of interfaces between LA County Fire and people, and they assist them where they can during, before, and after the blaze. And apparently, the residents in Corral Canyon caught an arsonist up there, and the guy was all tooled up.
There you go. There's the blame right there. An arsonist. You see why when you listen to so much negative media, whether it's people complaining, news syndications, and they call fake news, gaslighting situations off of reports and people's recordings of the situation, you become numb and you become blind and brainwashed from the actual problem. And Mel Gibson's son, who worked with the fire brigade, found the root cause of the fires and arson. And the sad thing is, these guys are lighting fires in the rich neighborhoods where people have $1 million homes. And the chances of them doing this is because they feel that the rich people are gaining more than the rest of the population that is poor middle. They are living comfortable. They are stocking money. They don't have to deal with the tax issues because they know the tricks of how to save and move money around without having to be taxed. They know how to have tax deductions. And then they're looking at, you have all this homelessness around your city and you're not doing anything to protest about it. You're just sitting in your $1 million homes, enjoying your life, walking right by all the homeless people. And that's why they're catching the root cause of the problem. The arsonists. So we can go ahead and continue to blame the politicians, as he said. Yes, they're gonna have the answer for it, but no one's addressing, no one's talking a whole lot of narratives right now about these arsonists. It's only a few conversations going around, but the whole narrative right now is the politicians are to blame, when the arsonists are the ones that should be to blame. Everybody should pay attention to what he said.
Up with fire gear and equipment and stuff like that, and ready to go. And
Let's rewind that and hear that again.
the guy was all tooled up with fire gear and equipment and stuff like that, and ready to go. And he had been lighting fires, but they corralled the guy in Corral Canyon and gave him to the police. So
Yeah,
there are
apparently
people
that
actively going around looking for these conditions. Yeah.
Yeah, apparently, Mel, that individual was never charged. It's a very confusing set of facts because apparently he was reportedly trying to light things on fire, but
That's not the same guy that Mel Gibson is talking about. The guy that they caught only had a blowtorch. He wasn't geared up with fire equipment, fire protection. He was riding a bike. So that right there is misinformation. Of course, a lot of us who pay attention will know the difference of what a person looks like geared up with fire gear and someone who just has a blowtorch and a bike. When you're wearing fire protection gear, it's bulky. You look like you're in a suit. I think I saw a video. They were saying they had people running around with fire marshal suits and EMT suits to loot houses. So imagine what they're doing with those exact same suits and clothing to set fires.
has to be
So yeah,
considered.
here's
As
another
far as the
piece of an
man-made
example of
fire, I
misinformation
mean,
right here. She
driving
has
down
no
the
idea what she's
peninsulas
talking
where
about because
vehicles
that's not what
may
Mel
ignite
Gibson is talking about.
because of the catalytic converters, etc. They may have
It's not the
ignited by
fires, I
Oh
guess,
yeah,
use.
that they.
I'm
yeah,
I
saying
yeah.
mean,
that doesn't
it
happen.
all seems very
Unfortunately, in
bizarre. But
many
they have not
cases,
ruled
it has
out
to do with the
that
human
arson
component, which is arson.
could have started the first fire. I mean, there's obviously still investigating this, and at the same time, Mel, there are numerous complaints, as you alluded to, that the fire hydrants did not have water or water pressure, and the LA fire chief
Yeah.
herself reacted. Watch this.
My stance on this is when a firefighter comes up to a hydrant, we expect there's going to be water. We don't control the water supply. Our firefighters are there to protect lives and property and to make sure that we're properly trained and equipped. That's my position on this. So if there's no water, I don't know how the water gets to the hydrants.
Mel, reaction to that.
He can't. He can't react to it because he's trying to be a peaceful person. He's trying not to be negative because you're not solving anything. And she keeps gaslighting him and digging, trying to get him to say something negative so she can add to the other reporting she has had where everybody just went off, the rails, just popping off. I'm gonna tell you something else that most Christians try to follow, and I think he's a very blessed man. His family's blessed because honestly, you're gonna see why he's trying to be positive. Let's read why he's trying to be positive. Matthew 5. Okay, it says the Beatitudes, and this is coming from Jesus. It says, verse 3, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. You see why he, even tries to make movies about Christ and his Christian beliefs. I know he hasn't been a perfect man, but in his heart, from what you're seeing and hearing, I guarantee you he goes by this scripture quite a bit. Because for one, he's mourning and he's trying to be comforted from mourning for others and for his family. For one, he's very meek, and one thing about this verse is, yes, he lost, but he's preparing to inherit some other portion of land or property on this earth. That's why he told his family, get the important stuff, which was documents and passports. And he's trying to be righteous. And that's why he's filled with so much spiritual wisdom in his interview. And he's trying to stay filled with positivity, no negativity. He's showing mercy, and he has a pure heart as best as he can. And he's trying to be peaceful. He's really trying to be peaceful in this interview. You can tell that, and that's why you can see how tense he is. Look how tense he looks. And again, she's digging, and he's trying to stomach the questions because he knows it's not going to solve anything to be negative. And you don't solve anything negatively. You make things worse. And it makes things harder to solve and it takes longer to solve problems when you're negative.
Well, you know, I know they were messing with the water, letting reserves go for one reason or another. They've been doing that a while. California has a lot of problems that sort of baffle the mind as far as why they do things. And then in the events like this, you sort of look, well, is it on purpose? Which it's an insane thing to think. But one begins to ponder whether or not there is a purpose in mind. What could it be? I don't know. Do they want the state empty? I don't know.
Well, Mel, there's already talk, and we played a couple of sound bites of reimagining the way rebuilding occurs. And obviously, there's a great need for high-density housing in California and across the country. That's a big push by the climate folks. And you're already hearing rumblings of that in this case.
Well, the catch to that is there's a lot of desert, a lot of empty desert. And the amount of desert that California has, fires really don't exist in that area. I lived in the desert. I have friends who still live in the desert in the Mojave area. I lived in Palmdale. And what's interesting, that region where I live, the fires really can't get that far because once it goes past the mountain peaks, there's no trees. There's no forest. The forest is south of that region. Anything north of that is all rocks and desert and tumbleweed. And there's a lot of desert. They have taken most of the desert and used it for solar wind farms and solar panel farms. And there's a whole lot more of empty desert out there that they can build. So again, she's just going off of what people are saying. She has no clue. She has no clue. No clue at all. If she actually lived in California, she would, I'll be honest, she wouldn't be asking what she's asking. And they do have problems in California. They have money problems, budget problems. They have ecological problems. They have problems with animals extinctions, animals running out of food, so they're attacking people's dogs and livestock. Can you imagine the bears running around there at night that need the fish that Trump's keep bitching about? He wants to say, "Oh, why you need to save the fish?" Well, you need the fish because guess what? The bears do eat fish, and so do the whales. There've been random whale attacks by accident. So if you don't save the fish that possibly these two animals eat, well, guess what? The whales are going to start attacking canoers and boaters, and the bears are going to start going after people in the parks. Again, we act like we don't care about animals, but when the animals start coming for us, then we're going to care. But yeah, California has a lot of problems. In fact, California has always had a water shortage. California depends on the rains and the snow. In the last 10 years, they have had a reduction of rain and snow because of the earth warming. In fact, the last 4 years, they had a great many droughts, and that's why their forest fires have escalated. They don't want to talk about that. They have a water shortage. When I was there over the holidays, there was barely any water coming to the mountains because there was hardly no snow. The water that comes from the mountains comes from the melted snow, and that's what goes into the reservoirs. So in a way, if they can't get water from nature, perhaps they had to cut the budget because they wasn't getting any more water. And of course, they don't want to pull water out the ocean because people are going to bitch and complain how salt corrodes and destroys their material things. But, it doesn't harm the ground at all because they also have salt mines in the desert where I used to live. Yeah, they actually have salt mines in the desert. So you can't say salt water will destroy the environment. No, it won't. It will not.
Like, goodbye single family homes, hello high density housing.
Yeah. It's
You love how like his anxiety is building. You can tell he's ready to go. Like, he is so ready to go. He is so tired of this. Like, you can tell.
It's pretty scary, and it'll take decades to do that too. It's like even if it if it's a good idea, which I don't know if it is, but reminds me of the old cattle barons clearing people off the land, But I don't know. I can make all kinds of horrible theories up in my head, conspiracy theories and everything else. But
Bam, there you go. Bam, there you go. He pretty much just shut her down right there. He just, like I said, you can tell he was getting tired of the question. He just shut her down right there. And I guarantee you she's not going to get the message.
it just seemed a little convenient that there was no water, and and that the wind conditions were right, and that there are people ready and willing and able to start fires. And are they committed?
There you go. Now you know who to blame. That is a big theory. It was convenient. There wasn't enough water. The winds were coming in from different wind conditions, and people who started the fires knew how and where to start the fires. So if they knew parts of California were doing water conservation and they knew they cut the budget, then they took advantage of nature to cause this. They took advantage of nature to cause this. And this exacerbated the problem because they used nature as a weapon. And he's speaking truth. And again, he's not blaming politicians per se. He just said that, yes, they may have slept on the job, not prepared for this, or not looked out for possible forest fires that were unfortunately sprouting around all last month and all through November and all through October, July. But he's actually, once again, saying arsonists are the core blame.
Mission to do so, or are they just acting on their own volition? I don't know. But they seem pretty well equipped, some of these people that they're catching.
He said it again, well equipped. The guy that she was referring to was not well equipped. He had a blowtorch and a bike, and he got caught in a neighborhood. He looked like a homeless guy, probably with a blowtorch. He probably stole it, who knows? But they said that he was trying to light some trees on fire. I mean, perhaps he was trying to test it, and that's why he got caught. We don't know. That's why the police let him go. In the situation that, that everybody's running around in chaos and mayhem, he could have just said, all right, fuck it. There's fires all over the place. I'm going to try to test this on something real quick. They're not going to know the difference. But Mel Gibson is saying there are actual people, according to his son, that is fully equipped with protection in case they get caught in the fires.
A lot of questions. A lot of questions, Mel. Mel, a message tonight.
Yeah, I'll sift through the remains of my place and see if I can find any clues for you.
He shut her down again. That's number 2. He got her again. But she's going to keep on digging. Maybe she'll give up at this point. But you can see how frustrated he is. He is very frustrated, but he's trying to be positive. But he probably was asked to sit on this interview, and then he was told what kind of questions. And he probably, in fact, when he started with the actual broadcast, you can see his frustration in his eyes. I saw it. I mean, you can see he was frustrated. It seemed like he probably was more relaxed on Joe Rogan's show than he is on this show. Because he actually said he was a little tense, but he was satisfied his family was okay. He wasn't tripping.
Mel, any message from you to Governor Newsom or Karen Bass tonight?
Spend less on hair dryer.
Yo, you can't get more negative than that. That's just that is hilarious. Yo, look, you gotta give the man credit. I would have said something similar. I would have said something sarcastically similar. I mean, what can you say? If you don't know anything about politics, if you don't know what really goes on, unless you're a sponsor, what can you say? Except that California has a lot of problems. People slept on the job for looking out for this. Um, they should have had preparation for water. If they were battling fires all year round, which they were, I've seen it. I was there because I can tell you I was there. Why put down the governor when you really don't know what's going on? You really don't know besides what people are saying. And you can't go off of narrative until you actually have proof and facts. And the only thing he has proof of is his son have been catching fully armed and heavily armored, protected arsonists with fire protection gear. That's the only proof he has. And he said that is the problem. That's who should be blamed. Is anybody going to listen to that? Probably not, because again, they want everybody interviewed to put down the politicians, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. I've been holding it, but they want to put down the Democrats. But let's go back in 2020 when we had the pandemic. How much of a shit show was that? And they had a lot of fires. And did anything get solved under Trump? No. Same problem. Same problem. And then when the pandemic started killing people and Trump finally bailed out the businesses, guess what the businesses did? And the realtors. They raised the rent and priced everybody out and caused everybody to be homeless. And we know what Trump said? That's competition. That's competing. One thing you have to understand is when you have competition and politics mixed in, things go up because it always go to the highest bidder, even in politics. That's why you have these races. You have these campaigns. The votes go to the highest voter. We have to understand what we're listening to when it comes to these narratives. We're blind and brainwashed to anything that sounds good, and we ignore the truth. This man is speaking complete facts. And again, there's a frustration expression. There it is. He's tired of it. He's tired of the interview. He's frustrated. He said what he had to say. He's done. He doesn't want to go on with this. He's not going to put that man down any more than what he can and what he understands and what he knows. Very, very good interview. Very good interview. There you go. That's it. Hold on. Let's rewind this a bit. Let's rewind it. Let's go back.
To Governor Newsom or Karen Bass tonight?
Spend less on hair gel. That's it.
Yeah.
What can I say to them? Not big admirer of either, but there you go.
Now, Mel, I know multiple.
Yo, that was rich. That was rich. This has got to be the best news broadcast interview I've seen out of Fox News. I'm sorry. This was epic.
Multiple shows and films.
So this continues probably about his projects because I'm pretty sure she can't get no more out of him. They're probably talking to her in her ear, or they probably already have this scripted, and they can't get no more out of him. They're giving up. You can tell they're giving up. So now they're going to talk about his projects to promote his upcoming projects because, you know, he's not going to follow their scripted narrative, which is sad. This is the epitome. This is the epitome of how news media get labeled fake news. As it's very notorious. So let's see how everybody pulls together because this is going to be a very, very long 4 years. I don't think a lot of people are going to have a place to go to in 4 years, honestly. Because again, California has to get funding from the government. They're already in debt since 2020. And then they got to clear the areas that were burned and then rebuild them. So most likely, since there was a mass exodus over the 5 years, this is going to cause a lot of people to move out of state, like what happened during Katrina, and they're gonna find residents in other states. If not, they're gonna probably stay there because it's gonna take. In fact, Katrina wiped out Louisiana in a matter of hours. The whole southern region of Louisiana was wiped out in hours. It took, I'm gonna say, it almost took 10 years to get Louisiana half back to normal. 10 years. And there's still parts of Louisiana that's still not repaired since Katrina. I traveled through there several times and I purposely visited areas, and some areas are still not even touched. So I hope you enjoyed this reaction, this commentary, this interview. Um, it is a solemn, humble period. It's a very humble time. This is not a time to be bashing anybody, pointing fingers, name blaming, because we need to find ways to help these people, start fundraisers, find ideas, get some engineers out there, ecological scientists out there to help, slow these fires down. Because right now, no one's solving any problems. Nobody. This is exactly what happened to the Hawaiian people. In fact, they suffered it worse because they were trapped on the island with fires. That whole island was burnt to the ground and nobody came to their aid. Nobody. They cried and cried for help and they got help months later. All the rich Americans who was on that island, you know what they did? They fled and sat on their asses, sat on their riches and stored money. And they decided, instead of donating their money or to, help get assistance to that island, they decided after the accusations to start more fundraisers, which comes out of our pockets. Not theirs, ours. Very few donated anything, if that. But they decided to sit on their ass and let those Hawaiian people lose everything. Everything. So it's kind of funny how what goes around comes around.
Nothing that no one could do. They were just stretched too thin. And by the time firefighters from different counties got here, it was just too late for us, So I don't hold any grudges. I just, I just wish it could have been different.
And so I continued to fight. My son was calling me. My other kids were calling, Dad, get out of there, get out of there. Evacuate me and who lived over there, Jason. We don't know where he is right now. He and I continued to fight until we couldn't fight no more.
I've lived in this area for over 20 years, and we've seen fires in the mountains and the hills and that, but never anything like this.
Actually, it was out in the backyard hosing things down because the embers were really going crazy. And then finally, the sky was just bright orange, and I go, we got to go now.
President Joe Biden reached Los Angeles with California Governor Gavin Newsom to be briefed on what he called an astounding situation. Biden has cancelled his planned visit to Italy, his final overseas trip as president. The US president said his administration is doing anything and everything to contain these fires. President-elect Donald Trump attacked Newsom, blaming him for the ongoing wildfires. In a post on his Truth Social account, Trump accused Newsom of failing to manage the situation, alleging the governor prioritized protecting worthless fish over the lives and homes of Californians.
For the smelt, and for the sake of the smelt. They have no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants today in Los Angeles. It was a terrible thing. And we're going to get that done. It's going to finally be done. I got it done from the federal side, and he didn't want to sign it, but it's not going to happen again like that.
Human-caused climate change is causing more severe weather patterns. Rising temperatures have caused a vicious cycle of dry winters, followed by drier summers. Southern California had 2 decades of drought that were followed by 2 exceptionally wet years, sparking furious vegetative growth that left the region packed with fuel and primed to burn.
The obvious impact of climate change in this situation is that the average number of days per year where the vegetation is very available for fire has doubled since the 80s. So the fire season has been growing longer and longer in California.